it's time to retwist my hair. Also, I'd like to say y'all have one of the first official looks at my new hair color. Not gonna lie, I think it looks darker on camera than it does in person. It's not the color I was going for, so I'm still trying to get used to it. So I think retwisting my hair might make me feel a little better about it. I don't know, this is what happened last time I did my hair too. I kind of hated it when it first came out. And then after I retwisted and got used to the fact that my hair is indeed permanently dyed, it kind of grew on me. So I'm hoping that this does the same. I honestly don't hate this, but it's just a lot brighter than what I wanted it to be. So yeah. All right, and before I retwist my hair, I'm just gonna show y'all the mix of oils that I'm using. So I'm going to use grapeseed oil and hopefully, yeah, I'm gonna use grapeseed oil, a little bit of black seed oil, just because it's super good for hair growth. And then also pumpkin seed oil as well. And then I'll also just be adding in some tea tree oil and then some rosemary as well. I'm gonna just start mixing, and I'm gonna take this as an opportunity as well to talk a little bit more about my locks, just because on some of my other accounts I get a lot of questions surrounding my locks and how I take care of them, how many I have, and yeah, just stuff about locks. And for those of you who don't know me, hello, my name is Sydney. I make content here and on TikTok about spiritual wellness, lock care, as well as holistic living. And for this oil mixture, I'm going to do like 50% grapeseed oil. And then I'm not measuring anything. I wanna say that was like a tablespoon of the pumpkin seed oil. And then I'm just gonna do a little bit of the black seed oil just because I only have a little bit. And I feel like I remember this stuff low-key being expensive. And for the tea tree oil, I'm probably gonna do like 3 or 4 drops. That was like 5 drops. And then the same thing for the rosemary. So I found that rosemary oil has worked really well in growing out my hair. So I put that in just about everything. And then I use tea tree oil just because I tend to get a very dry, itchy scalp, especially in the winter time. And tea tree oil helps with that inflammation and also just making sure that my scalp stays healthy, because it drives me insane that my scalp gets so dry because it tries so hard, you know? I don't know. Yeah, I'm sitting on the floor right now just because my bathroom does not have the best lighting and I actually want this video to turn out good. So just pretend this is like a very nice, beautiful bathroom and not the floor of my living room. Oh, and I'd also like to mention that I am not a professional when it comes to retwisting my hair. So this is the process that I do. I feel like my hair has not suffered from it. My hair continues to be strong and healthy, and I haven't really found any like weak spots in my hair. My hair is pretty fine on its own, so there is a very big difference between the actual size of my lock and my roots. And I think that's just because my hair like sits on itself. As soon as I twist it, like it just condenses, and then as it matures, it ends up looking like this. But honestly, I'd say apart from the ends, my locks are pretty consistent with their thickness. And I know the ends are like this because I 2-strand twisted it to start my locks. And so they are a little, you know, like bumpy. They have their own character, which I like, and that's what I was going for. So if you watch this video and you retwist your hair and something happens, I apologize, but this is not advice. This is just how I do it. And what works for me, and you could do with that what you will. And typically when I'm retwisting my hair, I honestly don't use a mirror just because I take my glasses off and then I'm literally blind. So I usually just kind of like eyeball my locks, but we'll see how this goes because I don't know, this camera screen is small. I'm not really specific though when I retwist my hair. Like, I do kind of like separate all the little strands of hair, but I don't like go in with a comb and really define my parts. More so I just kind of try to get the same general area, just because I do kind of tend to like the messier, more natural look when it comes to my locks. So I'm not really specific about anything, but I do start by just tying off the top of my hair and then I start from the bottom and I go up. And I'll be showing you the actual retwist process later, but I think I'm just gonna start with this bottom row, and then once I get into some juicier looking locks, then I'll show you what it actually starts to look like when I'm retwisting my hair. One more thing I forgot to mention too is typically I retwist my hair after a shower, but I actually showered last night because that's when I dyed my hair, so this is very like freshly done and I didn't want to wash it again. So I'm just going in with my half distilled water, half aloe juice hairspray. This is not the full recipe either for this, but I was in a rush and yeah, so that's what I got. But I like my hair just to be slightly damp. I don't like to retwist when it's like soaking wet, just because I feel like it doesn't really stick in the way that I want it to, and it just doesn't tend to last. So I make sure my hair is just slightly damp to start off, and then I literally just go in with my oil mixture on some fingers, and I just kind of rub that at the base of the lock. And then, because I literally can't see without my glasses, I'm kind of just like feeling for the parts that I know are there. And I've had these locks for coming up 2 years in June. So I kind of just like understand my hair and where the parts are and what it feels like. And then all I do is I start twisting at the base. And once I feel like that's secured, I just roll it. And I roll it in between my fingers all the way till, ooh, ouch, until it is, yeah, all the way up and secured. And then what I do is I take a clip and I clip it. And the bottom ones are always a little difficult just because there's not a lot of hair down there for me to clip onto. So they're kind of just like hanging, and the weight of the clip I think sort of helps it stay secured. So while I'm doing this, let's get into some questions. So I think the most commonly asked question for me about my locks is how many locks I actually have. And last time I counted, I had 57 locks. And as far as I know, nothing has changed. And that number wasn't honestly very intentional. What kind of happened is before I got my locks, I just like researched. First of all, I got lock inspiration from like Instagram, YouTube, and Pinterest about what I wanted my locks to look like in terms of thickness and count. Because one thing about locks is they thicken over the years. And I think for myself, I knew that if I had too many locks, it would just become kind of like unmanageable for me. So honestly, after kind of just like doing my own research and just kind of like snooping around the internet, I came to the conclusion that I probably wanted around 60 locks, and that was the goal. And honestly, what I ended up doing too is I just started parting my hair like I would for braids, because I braided my hair long enough to know how many boxes I would like and how many braids I would want to have. So I figured I would just sort of treat it like I did for box braids or other protective styles. And then, you know, just do locks in its place. And that seemed to work out for me, to be honest. I wasn't like counting or anything, but I was just kind of like keeping note of the box size. So yeah. And I guess that's another thing too, depending on how you want to start your locks. I know some people do freeform, which basically means that you allow your hair to lock naturally. You're not necessarily parting it or doing anything to form the actual locks. And it's just kind of like a process that happens over time. And then there's also semi-freeform, which is a style that I was considering doing, which is kind of like, you don't just allow your hair to naturally form into locks. There is a little bit of manipulation with the hair and making those parts and just kind of sort of helping out that process. And that one comes out looking very natural. And I know a couple accounts or folks that have locks that are semi-freeform, and I think they look beautiful. I mean, honestly, I think all locks look beautiful, but it's kind of interesting to me to see like how each lock style turns out based off of how you started them. Because one thing I also realized too, and I believe it's because I started with a 2-strand twist, my hair is not as uniform as some mature locks are. And I feel like, and this could be wrong, I feel like it comes down to how you started the locks, because I find that people that use the coil method, which is basically taking a comb or something and coiling your hair, and it creates a very tight, uniform curl. I feel like that creates those uniform locks, versus when I did my 2-strand twist, my hair is already very like kinky curly. So when I put it in the twist, it kind of just did its thing and had its big like bulbs of where my curl was and where the twist was, and it looked really cool. But the locks also kind of came out like that was the start of them, which once again, I really like. I don't think I would want uniform locks. I think they look really good on some people, just personally, and not for myself. Yeah, I feel like the way you start your locks is definitely going to impact what they look like in the future. So that's also something to consider, I'd say, if you're someone who's either thinking about locks or someone who, I don't know, wants to restart the journey, or yeah. I'm really liking this hair oil mix, by the way, y'all. It definitely feels very smooth on my hair, and I think my hair's reacting really well to it. So that makes me happy, because that just means all I gotta do is add in those herbs that I wanted to create my full hair oil. And I'll probably be posting about that as well on here. So stay tuned for that if you want a homemade hair oil, or you want to make it yourself, or I might sell it. You could buy it from me, you know? It's whatever works for you. So another question that I get quite often is, how often do I retwist my locks? And I would say when I have a consistent schedule and know where I want to be, where I want my locks to be retwisted specifically, I try to do it every month. So I guess you could say 4 weeks. And right now, just because of how the timing worked out and everything, I think I typically do my locks at the end of the month going into the new month. So they're just kind of like retwisted every beginning of the month. And yeah, I will say though, over the past like 2 months, I've been retwisting more consistently, and that's just because I've been going on vacation and doing things where I think my hair would have been easier to manage if it's retwisted, or I just kind of wanted like a neater look. But usually if I'm on schedule, it's every end of the month, around like the 27th, I think, was the day that I kind of just like keep in mind for when I might want to start retwisting my hair again, or whenever I feel. Because I'm honestly trying to extend that time. Right now, once a month is working really well for me, and I really like it, and I don't feel like my hair has too much tension or anything when I do retwist. I think I do want to start extending that time, just because I don't think you need to retwist your hair every single month. That's kind of like a preference thing. Some people say you shouldn't retwist your hair at all. Some people do it maybe as early as every 3 weeks. I think it's just honestly what works for that person and what they want their hair to look like. Although you do run the risk of damage if you do, you know, retwist your hair too much. So definitely pay attention to your hair if you're retwisting more often than not. Just because it can lead to breakage or just too much tension on the hair, which could lead to thinning locks, which, I mean, I don't want. Up to you. Also, ever since having my locks, I've only ever used hair oil to retwist it. I think maybe once in the beginning I tried making an aloe and flaxseed gel, like a natural gel. And it worked really well, but it did just kind of leave like a white cast on my hair, and my hair was flaking. And so I definitely didn't care for that. And so after that, I decided I'd just use hair oil. Plus, before locking my hair, I started making it a point to not use that many products on my hair to begin with. So my scalp is pretty sensitive, and when I have too many things that are just like sitting on my scalp, it gets really itchy and irritated very quickly. So I only ever use hair oil to retwist it. And for me, retwisting is kind of just making sure that my locks continue to stay in the uniform manner that I started them with. Like I said, I kind of like the more messy, I guess, like hippie bohemian look. So I don't necessarily feel the need to have neat locks all the time, but I do like the parts that I have, and it just kind of like, for me, allow me to monitor my locks and really take care of them and make sure that maintenance is staying up and my locks are doing well. yeah. Trying to think of another question, to be honest, or just maybe some like lock info. Oh, I guess a good thing to talk about that I don't think I've really talked about before is why I got my locks. And to be honest, I want to say it's a mixture of things. So I think on a very practical level, I decided to get locks because I was kind of over the whole like do my hair every single day, fight with my hair every single day situation that I was in when I had my loose natural hair. And looking back, I think my hair was very beautiful when I was a loose natural. And I worked really hard to get it into a very healthy place. I haven't always had the best track record with keeping my hair healthy and happy, but if I'm being totally honest, I do not think I look that good with loose natural hair. I barely even have pictures of myself when my hair was loose and natural because I just felt like there was always something wrong with it, and I was constantly fighting it to make it look and do something that honestly it wasn't supposed to be doing or looking like. So I decided to lock my hair because I thought the style was beautiful. It can be a lot more low maintenance than having loose hair for sure. And also, products were expensive, and like I had stated earlier, I kind of stopped using products on my hair when I was a loose natural, but it was just very difficult to deal with. And I knew if I locked my hair, I'd really just have to worry about shampooing it and using natural oils and products to maintain it. And I wouldn't feel the need to use gel and all those other things that I was kind of just like forcing into my hair when I was a loose natural. And here is a look of my hair thus far. As you can see, I try to put a couple locks to a single clip just to save clips, and then also I feel like my hair stays tighter when multiple are being clamped down versus just one. So this is how it looks thus far. As you can see, the parts are not perfect, and like I said earlier, that's kind of intentional. I'm not really that particular about making sure all my parts are correct, but more so just kind of separating those teeny tiny hairs and making sure my hair is still doing good and looking healthy. And also having these parts allows me to monitor whether or not I do feel like they're thinning or if I feel like my hair is still healthy at the roots. All right, and another, I guess, aspect of why I decided to lock my hair is for my spiritual beliefs, to be honest. And I'm not gonna really get into that super deep meaning behind locks and spirituality and what connects the two, just because I don't feel like I've personally done enough research to just start talking about it. And so I really just have my own experience and my own opinions and feelings about the two and how they're connected. And for me, honestly, as much as I used to struggle with my natural hair, I still feel like hair has a vibe and energy, and I wouldn't say it's a living thing, but there's just aspects of hair to me that doesn't make me feel like it's what science says it is, which is just like dead protein coming out of our scalp. You know, I think there's a lot more meaning and depth behind hair, and for me, putting my hair in locks was a way for me to actually honor my hair and to maintain that energy and to just kind of like go through this introspection process with myself. Because I feel like for me, there's no way around acknowledging that when I was doing all these things to my hair, it was to please others and to look a certain way and to be accepted by the societal norms of beauty, and honestly like Eurocentric beauty standards. And I even noticed, honestly, for me, I feel like the attention that I got before locks and the attention after has not necessarily gone away, but it has shifted in terms of the way people have approached me and what they find beautiful about me, I guess I might say. Except I did kind of feel like an outcast, and I'm really not about to get into that beauty talk either, because I think everybody's beautiful and you're gonna do what you want to do. So this is just about my personal preference, what I felt was right for me and my spiritual journey. And I think it's within reason to say that locks are not currently considered one of the most loved protective styles or ways that we can wear our hair, but it's really not a competition. And like I said, people are gonna do what they wanna do to feel beautiful, and that's not my business. So yeah, that's why I decided to lock my hair. And I think honestly, since locking my hair, I feel like it's been easier for me to accept and love myself without feeling like I need to rely on others to tell me it's okay to love and accept myself, if that makes sense. Even just if you're comparing the ways I used to take photos and document myself before locks and after, I feel like once I got locks, I really just embraced myself and embraced the natural beauty that I already had. And I don't know what it is about locks, but I feel like it just made it easier for me to do that. Also too, I think it was maybe a part, just like when I started my locks, there's this very big notion of like the ugly stage of locks and just like all these phases you'll go through that you'll low-key hate about your locks. And I did not experience that. I don't think my locks had an ugly stage, to be honest. I liked every part of the process. So yeah, I've just always felt very good about my locks, and I feel like it really boosted my confidence, even if I was receiving attention in a different way than I was before. I also love that there is such a large and supportive lock community that exists on the internet. Like, on my Instagram, I mainly post lock content just because I find that that platform is where that form of content does the best for me. So that's where a lot of my lock content honestly truly exists. But just like the amount of support and people that just come out of the woodwork, it's just like a very open and supportive community. And there's a lot of, I guess, camaraderie that just kind of came with getting my hair locked and sort of like recognizing other people on the journey. And it's also really cool just to see how unique and different people's locks are, because even on my head, not all these locks look the same. Most of them do not look the same. They're all very different. So it's cool seeing people at different stages of their lock journey and what they did to get there and how they're maintaining it. I've really enjoyed my lock journey. And on that same topic, to be honest, I don't know right now what the future looks like for me, but I do intend on having these locks for a while. In my mind, 5 years is kind of like the thing that comes to mind when I think about my locks and how long I might have them. I don't know if I'll keep them for 5 years. I don't know if I'll go far past 5 years, but I think my goal right now is to just make it to the 5-year mark. Just because, I don't know, I've just like blocked off that amount of time for myself in these locks. But nothing is super strict, you know. Nothing is set in stone. And yeah, so also when I retwist my hair, I usually keep these clamps in for about an hour. Honestly, my hair is pretty dry right now, just because I didn't get out of the shower right away. So I probably don't have to keep the clips in as long as I typically do, but I try to keep these clips in until my hair is at least like 95% dry. Just because as far as retwists go, water is the enemy. especially after you retwist too, just like go into it with the understanding that once your hair gets wet, you're most likely going to lose that retwist. Also, what I said y'all earlier is kind of making me a little nervous, so I just want to like reiterate, I am not partaking in that natural girl versus glam girl conversation that very much exists on the internet. I don't think one is better than the other. I think it's personal preference and what makes you feel good. And there's negative aspects and positive aspects to both sides, you know? I don't think everyone's dressing up for male attention, and I don't think everybody is dressing down because they truly just love themselves that much. You know, both are probably inherently connected to the patriarchy and men's perception of women and women's perception of what may attract whatever type of man. But I choose to believe that we do what we want to do with our best interest in mind, and it could go either way, to be honest. Like I said, I think both people are beautiful. Both sides are not innocent though. And both sides have their attributes. So this is not a pick me conversation. That's all I'm trying to say. Either way. As you can see too, I don't know why, I think it might be like my Virgo rising or something, but I love symmetry. So whenever I retwist my locks, they always end up coming out relatively symmetric. It's not really intentional. I think that's just kind of like how my mind works. I like order in details like that. So, oh my God, look at that. This is not good. I mean, clearly my locks are doing fine, but I try to at least like anchor them to my scalp, just because if they're running around like that, they might untwist. But I thought this would be a good time to show y'all once again how I go ahead and retwist my hair. So I'll do it right here on this one. And as you could see, so this is a pretty big part. All of my parts are different sizes, to be honest. Just because I wasn't super specific even when I was parting my hair. More so I was just trying to map up how many need to be on my head and what it might look like. But, oops, oh my God. I did that whole thing and I didn't even show y'all. So let me just hurry up and do this one and then I'll show you the next one, I guess. I'm gonna show you on this next one right here. So, you take the part. I like to make sure that all the little hairs, as much as possible, are out of the way. Then I just kind of like feel out the space and I use my fingers to sort of push if I feel like I need to. Then I pinch the base of my lock and I tightly twist with my index finger and my thumb. Once I feel like it's twisted pretty well, then I go ahead and I roll the lock just to tighten it in. Then I just clamp it down with the one next to it usually. And they're secured, and yeah, that's that. It's a pretty simple process, to be honest. And I've done it long enough to get it down to below an hour. I know that's also based off of how many locks I have too. I'm sure people that have way more locks than me definitely take a little longer to finish up. But that was like another thing too about my locks. I wanted them to be manageable for myself, you know? I didn't want long, difficult processes when I had to retwist. I didn't want to, you know, ever get to a point where because they're so small, they start breaking off too, because that's something, and it's natural, you know? I think sometimes it has nothing to do even with the person and their habits, you know? If you have small locks, they're probably bound to twist off, you know? Nothing wrong with that, but these were all things that I thought about and I decided I didn't want to deal with. I want to say these are like medium-sized locks, medium thickness, medium large parting. And yeah, it got me 57 locks. And I will say, as they've thickened, I definitely appreciate the amount that I have. I know when I first started my locks, the two-strand twists were so thin, I was kind of nervous that I didn't have enough locks. And so that's the thing too. Like I said, wait, where? like I said, my hair is pretty fine. So even though it is really curly, and when it's curly, it grows in volume, my hair itself is pretty fine and it's fairly thin. I wouldn't say I have the most dense hair for sure. So when it was just in the 2-strand twist, it was really small and they were really skinny. And I was nervous that I would always look bald because in my head, that's kind of how I looked, you know, without that like volume of my hair. I was like, I literally have 2 locks and you could see my scalp. That was my problem, honestly. I didn't like that my scalp was being seen. But locks really do thicken over time, and I think it's just because all of the hair that falls out, it doesn't have anywhere to go. So your locks are just bound to get thicker, which is a beautiful process too. And I heard, I don't know like the full facts about this, but I heard it takes a couple years for your locks to be considered mature locks. So I think my locks at this point are maybe like semi-mature. I don't really know who decides that, to be honest. I don't know when locks are considered mature, but I wouldn't say my locks are fully matured right now. I'd say they're getting there. Maybe my locks are like, I don't know, young adults. Maybe my locks are like young adults. They're not like adolescent locks. I'm trying to think too if I have anything else to say about my locks, to be honest. I've already posted a video about my shower routine and what I do to maintain my locks on a weekly basis. So if you're interested, check that out. And also don't forget to subscribe, because I talk about locks quite often on here, or I plan to. You know, this account is still pretty new. But if you're interested in lock care, or if you're interested in holistic living habits and tips, or spiritual wellness, those are all things that I personally find interest in, and I love to share information. I am a Virgo rising. Nothing brings me more pleasure than being able to talk about things. So I feel like YouTube can be a very great, good outlet for me. And I do my research as well, y'all. Not everything is opinion. It does depend on what I'm talking about, you know, and I try to do a good job at making sure that when it's an opinion, I state that, just because I think there's a lot of opinions online that get presented as fact, and that does absolutely nobody any good. I think in my next vlog video, I might show y'all some hairstyles that I've been doing consistently since doing my locks. I'm not big on like high tension styles, to be honest. I think I just don't have the energy to do like super advanced hairstyles. Maybe I am just a little bit of a simpleton. But like I said, one of the main reasons I got locks is because I kind of wanted to move away from that lifestyle of feeling like I constantly had to do things with my hair and constantly have it look some type of way for me to feel good. And locks was just kind of like an outlet for that for me. It really allowed me to feel more free to just exist and have my hair out if my hair wanted to be out, or not if it didn't. So yeah. Let me think. Anything else about my locks that might be important to mention in this video? Dyeing my locks is a new thing. For the first whole year, I did not touch my locks. It wasn't until October of this year that I decided I'd kind of like venture out and try coloring my locks. And honestly, it's because before I felt kind of torn about dyeing my hair and bleaching my locks, just because they do have some type of spiritual significance to me, and so I didn't really want to alter that natural state. But honestly, in October, I just felt like I needed a change. One thing about me is throughout the years, I've always done drastic things with my hair whenever I feel like I'm entering or leaving a particular period in my life. And putting my hair in locks was a big one for me. It was kind of like I said, me releasing societal norms, but also kind of like committing to this journey of really finding out what makes me happy and what my life path is and what I want to do. So I locked my hair, and that was kind of just like a very personal indicator to me, and just like symbolic move to show myself that I was committed to this journey of self-discovery and self-love. So for the longest time, I really did not want to ever dye my hair or bleach it. But like I said, I don't know, in October, and I'm trying to think and like remember what it was that made me feel like it was time. I don't know, maybe that will just remain something that's personal. But I just felt like in October, I needed to do something to signify like a new sort of like era for myself. And so, yeah, I dyed my hair, and it was supposed to just kind of be like this coppery color. I wouldn't really say it turned out like that, but the color came out nice. I didn't hate it. And yeah, and then this time, I think it's just because it's the start of a new year. My hair was kind of growing out, and I wasn't loving how that looked. And then also, I think once again, I'm just kind of sort of like committed to myself and my intentions that I've set for myself and the challenges that I've agreed to work through. And so I think I just decided again, I was like, I don't know, like taking my hair out of Locs is not something I consider. It's not something I want to do, but I can change the color, and I feel like that represents the change for me and the sort of like mental shift that I needed to, yeah, do what I gotta do. All right, y'all. So this is the final process. I still have quite a bit of my oil left, to be honest. Usually I go through the whole thing, but I did make a lot just because I was trying to sort of make some kind of concoction. Even though I eyeballed it, there was no reason for me to make that much. But yeah, so that's how I retwist my hair. I don't have a clock on me, but I feel like that didn't take longer than an hour. It could have been way less than an hour. That feels like 30 to 45 minutes for me. But yeah, so that's the process of retwisting my hair. Maybe just some like daily habits that I do with my locks that have helped me is I have a scarf. I have a particular lock scarf that is literally drenched in all the oils of all the times that I've gone to bed with oil in my hair. I try to wear that every single night. I don't wear it every night though, because I found that it does compress my hair so much that my locks kind of get misshapen. So I go back and forth, if I'm being completely honest, with wearing it and then not wearing it, just to keep my hair kind of like, I don't know, voluminous at its roots. Voluminous at its roots. And for the most part too, whenever I do retwist my hair, I usually wear it in a scarf out. That's another thing. I like to protect my crown. I like to protect my hair. And so I wear a lot of scarves. And so you may see that in my pictures, you may not, because I do tend to take pictures with my hair fully out so people could actually see it. But I think in daily life, like 50% of the time I wear my hair in scarves, and that just depends on the day. If I feel like I want a little bit more protection and a little bit more of a veil surrounding me versus when I wear my hair out freely. Yeah, honestly, I genuinely cannot think of anything else now. Honestly, stay tuned for my hair growth oil video, because it's a recipe that I've had for a long time, and I actually made it for my partner who suffers with genetic alopecia. So I made it to slow down that hair loss process and regain any type of hair regression that may not be fully irreparable yet. And the hair oil worked amazing. Of course, like alopecia, once it is fully set in, like you lose the follicle, so there's no way for that hair to grow back yet. But for all the surrounding area around that portion, it definitely grew back, and his hair looked a lot healthier. So I'm gonna let y'all know when I make that new hair oil, because it's amazing. But yeah, I think that's all for now. If you're considering getting Locs and you haven't already, 10 out of 10, recommend. I really have nothing bad to say about Locs, but it is up to you and what you think you could handle and your preference with your hair and what you're at the capacity for. So you're gonna have to make that decision on your own. If you're considering dyeing your hair, I use the brand One and Only, the Argan Oil Permanent Hair Dye, and of the 2 times I've used it, honestly, my hair has continued to feel very healthy, because that was one concern. I thought if I had bleached my hair or done something to my hair, it would get weak or it'd start breaking off, and because it's in locks, I don't know, I just had a fear that all my hair would start falling out, and it didn't, and it feels actually really nice and healthy and beautiful. But if you do dye your hair, I recommend putting coconut oil in your hair before you dye it. That's what I've done both times, and I think that's also helped it a lot. Here is my head fully retwisted. I really don't feel any tension, personally. I know some people find retwist painful. I think it's maybe just because I do it myself, and I'm literally not going to retwist it to a point that it's hurting my head like that. So that's another pro of getting it done yourself versus a loctician. I will say though, I've seen loctician videos and I do not doubt their magic. I think if you're struggling retwisting your hair by yourself and it's not coming out how you want it to look, or you feel like you're damaging your hair, definitely check out a loctician. I personally never have, just because I feel like the job that I'm doing retwisting my hair is pretty decent, and I kind of like the control of making sure I'm maintaining my own hair and my autonomy with managing my locks. So yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, until next week, happy healing.